Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to White Hot After the Buzzer. I'm your host, Couper Moorhead, coming to you after the Miami Heat lost 121-112 in Game 2 in Cleveland, going down 0-2 in the series. But it was much closer than that final score in the end. And look, I know you're probably already thinking he's about to put out some stuff that sounds like moral victories, but it's not about moral victories. It's about things that are happening on the basketball court that give Miami a chance going forward. And there are good, positive things in that way. And look, Cleveland shot historically well in the second quarter. They made 11 threes in the second quarter. It's an NBA postseason record, okay? They finished 22 of 45 from three. That's 48.9%. Most teams, playoff game, regular season game, they shoot that well from three on that volume, they're going to win most of those games, all right? So as odd as it might have been to say at the time, in the second quarter and the third quarter, Miami is keeping the score under 20, even as Cleveland is kind of bombing away. And it really felt like the Heat were doing well just to stay under 20, to give themselves a chance, to stay attached. It was check, check, check. They were hanging around. And when you do that, when you've got, the alligator blood in the face of everything Cleveland is throwing at you, you give yourself a chance to make one pivotal run in the fourth quarter, and that's what they did. Nikola Jovic got his first, real minutes in forever, and he was pushing in transition, making snappy passes, which are really key, again, as we talked about. Snappy passes over the top against Cleveland's strong side zones, strong side shifts. Davion Mitchell was creating havoc. He was getting downhill, hitting more threes. Haywood Highsmith was making timely plays, timely shots. Haywood and Davion combined for 35 points on 16 shots, which is exemplary supplemental, scoring, role player scoring. And all that put together, they got within 2 points. This was a clutch game. This qualifies as a clutch game despite everything Cleveland was doing offensively. Within two, and then Donovan Mitchell happened. He took over. He hit some tough shots. We'll talk about it in a little bit. And if it takes a great player at home making tough shots like that to close you out after a run like Miami made, sometimes it's just so be it. That's the way the cookie crumbles on some nights. And the Heat, look, they were matching Donovan shot for shot for a little while. They just missed a couple threes in the end. So, look, we noted after game one that one of the real storylines in that one, not just in the game, but kind of on a macro level for the Heat, was that, other than Miami's defense improving after halftime, improving on that shot quality bit that we will talk about more in a sec, was the way Cleveland was able to take Herro sort of out of the game down the stretch. They severely limited his touches in the second half, especially in the fourth quarter. And in between games, from post-game to practice to shoot-around, Tyler said multiple times, he'd seen this before. They've seen those coverages. This was not something mysterious that the Cavs were flummoxing them with. The Cavs did what they did well in game one, but Tyler has been seeing that same style of coverage for months now, ever since the trade deadline. So he's seen it before. The team has seen it before. They knew how to adjust, how to counter, how to fight back against what Cleveland was doing. And then in game two, Tyler backed up everything he said. He backed up his own words. He was back up to 80 touches, scored 1.27 points per possession on those touches for Miami, which is outstanding. And part of what helped was starting Davion Mitchell, moving him into the starting lineup, which gave Miami another ball handler, allows them to put Tyler off the ball, allows him to not only run off screens, and do that sort of thing to kind of give him some airspace when a guy is literally, trying to defend him within his own jersey, that sort of a deal, which we've seen a lot of. Everybody wants to pick up Tyler full court now and pressure him in that way, but when Davion can handle the ball, Tyler can run off screens, but Tyler can also be on the weak side of the floor. And that's another thing we talked about was Cleveland strong siding the ball side, leaving the weak side, leaving the top of the floor open if Miami can make those over-the-top passes, those quick passes off their drives, driving kicks. They did a lot better with that in this game. And that lets Tyler get catches off of a tilted defense. It lets Tyler get catches off an overreaction from the defense somewhere else on the floor. So it gives Tyler a little airspace to do that with. And so, yeah, Miami, their intentionality overall in offense was significantly improved. They got their corner touches, 11 corner threes, back up to their usual numbers. And, I just think you need to credit Herro not just for this game, but the way he's been playing for months, that since the trade deadline, he's been the offensive creator, right? But he's been willing to play off the ball. He's continued with the adjustments he made at the beginning of the season. It hasn't always led to more threes like the shot profile changes, but it's been the counters that the team has needed. It's been the style of game that's been beneficial to everyone. And then when he did get the right matchups tonight in game 2, when it wasn't like him trying to attack an Evan Mobley, when it was a different matchup, he was able to use his handles, gotten real much better, and he worked the angles and got downhill, and he was 9 of 10 in the upper paint, which is absurdly good. And I don't think people realize that he was putting up Nikola Jokic type upper paint floater runner numbers this season. I mean, he was elite at those shots. I think the scorekeeping officially was a little stingy on restricted area attempts on both sides tonight, so he might have had a couple like long jump layups that ended up being logged as upper paint shots, but still 9 of 10 is 9 of 10. Miami was an absurd 19 of 23 on upper paint shots, which is not, that's basically the equivalent of what Cleveland did from 3, 48.9%. You can be hot from other places other than 3. Miami was hot in the upper paint, a lot of floaters. So yes, Miami lost, but Herro responded in exactly the way he needed to respond. Not just for one game, but for showing that he can translate everything he did in the regular season, first half of the season and second half of the season, translate that development to postseason games. And at least for this game, for game 2, he really did that. He made his mark. He gave Miami a chance. He kept them hanging around, and then he gave them a chance at the end. Now, Cleveland's offense pretty much decided this game. The other big storyline from game 1 was the difference in shot quality. Huge gap between Miami and Cleveland in terms of shot quality, but in the second half, that gap was back down to here, right? The shot quality really narrowed. Miami reduced Cleveland the second half of game 1 to making tough shots, which Ty Jerome was more than happy to do, clearly. And in game 2, the shot quality, Miami here, Cleveland here, 53.1, 50.9. So not only did the gap close, Miami had better opportunities tonight overall. That came from those skip passes, you working the weak side of the floor, playing off overreactions, and they just got in the paint a lot more because Cleveland, for all the threes they were hitting, they kind of lost their connection with the paint. They only had 28 points in the paint. Miami had 44. That's, those are good foundational numbers. You're keeping yourself afloat with good twos, even as your three-point variance kind of fluctuates up and down. Now, some of that is Cleveland's own doing. They did get a little one-on-one mismatch hunting happy in the fourth quarter. They had some turnovers. They didn't touch the paint as much. But, that's what Miami's defense is supposed to do. We've talked all season long. What does Miami's defense do when it is working as intended? Limit the paint, cut off drives, force players to make tough shots, make life difficult for star players. We have talked about it all year long, and in this game, in game 2, despite the fact that Cleveland hung up, really good offensive rating, they hit all those threes, many stretches in the game, it felt like Miami's defense was doing what it's supposed to do. And when you can feel that way after a game 2, even if you're down 0-2 in the series, their defense is trending in the right direction, and that's going to give them a chance. It's just, you're reducing a team into needing to make tough shots. Cleveland is a historically good shot-making team, a historically good offense, but they've got guys that can create one-on-one, can make shots, and that's what they're dealing with. When you have a team that can shoot like that, and then they can turn to a Donovan Mitchell who didn't have to do a ton all game, and now he's got good, fresh legs, and he can carry them down the stretch, which he did. He carried them down the stretch just like Ty Jerome did in the fourth quarter of game 1. Now, Miami, they're still not forcing a lot of turnovers, which is the other part of their defense that shows up in terms of the scheme working as intended. And that's something that can help juice their offense as well. But there's just a lot of good stuff happening with the defense overall, even with Cleveland, making shots as they are. And I get that sounds very strange, but this is a process over results sort of thing. They're bringing Cleveland's shot quality down ever since the first half of Game 1, and they've evened the playing field in terms of what kind of offense both teams are getting to. That's going to give them a chance in Games 3 and 4. It's going to give them a chance at home. Doesn't guarantee anything because of how good Cleveland is. And Cleveland will have stuff to clean up. From Game 2, they probably didn't want, they're probably looking at it like we shot that well, should have won by more, should have been up by 20 plus. Shouldn't have let them hang around as long. But, this isn't like, I'm not going to tell you that Miami has only lost these games by a couple possessions and they've been right in them and all that. They've been beaten. Cleveland has beaten them. It's just the way that Cleveland has had to beat them, has had to do it, is on Miami's sort of playing field. It's on Miami's level. It's maybe not quite in the mud, but it's in the muck. It's right there where Miami wants these games to be stylistically, process-wise. They just got to find enough to put themselves over the top to actually get some wins. So 0-2 is 0-2. That's what it is. Miami gets the Heat get to come back to Miami. They get to play 2 here. We'll see how it goes, but there's stuff. As good as Cleveland is playing, there is stuff underneath all the numbers that should give you a little bit of encouragement going into these next 2 games. So for now, I'm Couper Moorhead. Thank you for joining us for After the Buzzer. We will see you again very soon after these games in Miami. And until then, take care and good night.